The original Season 3, Episode 5, The Axeman's Letter. Definitely love this episode because, for one, we got to see Aurora come in here, and it answered one of the big speculations that I had, and of course, she is not tied to either Klaus or Elijah. She is, of course, tied to Rebekah. So, we officially have the answer in this episode that the three, I guess, the three oldest regular vampires are officially set to the only three surviving sire lines, and that explains, of course, why Tristan wasn't working with his sister. Why, we already knew, with Lucian, but it answered that question, and it kind of brings up another question because I hadn't even thought of this, but once it was officially revealed that Aurora was tied to Rebekah's sire line, it kind of occurred to me that maybe that's why she was being kept in the mountains. It wasn't because she went crazy or anything like that. Maybe Tristan was keeping her away because that way, he could kind of do things on his own because he knew okay, well, despite the fact that she's my sister, we still have, this sire war going on, and maybe he thought that she would end up with Lucian, or maybe side with him since they ended up together, and even though they're brother and sister, maybe there was something there. I mean, she obviously still had feelings for Klaus in this episode, so maybe there was something going on where Tristan was like, maybe she could team up with Lucian, and then they'll both come after Elijah and me. So I don't know. It kind of popped into my head, maybe that's why he had her drugged up all the time and kept off in the mountains somewhere, so that she couldn't really be a part of the fight, and that way he could focus on killing off Lucian, and as well as Klaus, and then there would be no worries whatsoever. But I really enjoyed this episode. I love, once again, flashbacks, always really good, especially considering the original three. And we still don't have the actual flashback for Tristan just yet. We got, somehow, which I love the way that they did this, because it's we've had Lucian and Tristan in this for episodes now, and then it's oh, here's episode 5. And as soon as she's a part of, a full part of an episode, Aurora instantly gets her flashback and how she became one of the vampires. I was oh, okay, well, they're kind of doing it in order of who changed first. So it was Lucian was the very first, Aurora was the second, and then Tristan was the third for some reason. And I'm wondering how it happened, because of course it wasn't Aurora by mistake where she ended up turning her brother. Hey, we can, both be turned. Something happened. Maybe she lost control. Maybe she was going to try to turn her brother, and then she kind of lost it and then almost ended up killing him or something. And then Elijah came in and saved him or something like that. I don't know. But it was really cool to get that flashback. Of course, it was awesome to see Rebekah again. And I think we saw Finn, but we didn't see Cole. I always get their names mixed up. I'm pretty sure it was Finn that we saw, though. So that was pretty cool. They're very close. They're basically at the point of leaving during the flashbacks. So it really makes me wonder what the next one's going to be. Because they were taken off because they got busted because Lucian was going nuts, Elijah was going nuts, Cole was always going nuts. He was the first person to get him kind of screwed over a little bit because that was before compulsion, which we also see in this episode, the very first compulsion by Elijah. And that comes after he finds out that Klaus killed their mother and lied to them. And initially when I thought that, I was okay, he figured that out back then, which honestly I totally forgot. I seriously thought that they knew that a long time ago. Which maybe they do at this point. I don't really remember. I'm pretty sure they all knew at this point, but of course that was right after it happened. So when he did that, I was okay, he found out that Klaus did that. The first thing I thought was wow, he didn't tell anyone because he cares so much about his family, and he knew, maybe he thought there was a good reason for it. I was man, that just says he's a really great brother. And then the next scene happened, and he totally forced Aurora to say that she didn't care about Klaus and didn't love him or anything. I was oh, that's not nice. But he was really angry, and it made perfect sense. And then of course that led to the first really big fight between Klaus and Elijah, when when Klaus really confronts him, you took the one thing that mattered to. Admittedly, I was still on Elijah's side. I'm like, okay, I know he's super, super pissed because he found out that Elijah compelled Aurora to act like she never cared. And yes, that could have been different because Klaus, he still cared about it. He didn't want to turn her at first, but once she was turned, it was kind of like, pfft. And that seems to be the thing with them. Like with Lucian, he was super mad, and then he was a vampire. I was like, dude, I have super strength and stuff. I couldn't care less anymore. And the same thing with Klaus. Like once Aurora was turned, it was like, you know what? Oh well, it happened. We should do it and stuff. So it was kind of funny to me, just how how they were playing their sort of emotions when someone was already turned. It was just like fun times now. So it made sense for sure because it would have been very different. But I was still kind of on Elijah's side, to be totally honest. Like he killed their mom, and I know his reasoning for it. I still can't say it was the best reasoning. I mean, technically he killed her because he was mad, if I'm remembering right. So it was kind of like, I'm like the bastard son, and I'm hated by the man I thought was my father, and then I'm kind of a bastard to my actual father, and I don't even know who that is. And so he was really just mad, and he killed their mother. And Klaus, I mean, he killed their mother, and then Elijah was just like, I'm super pissed, and I won't tell my whole family. The only thing I'm gonna do is make you miss out on this girl you love. But I guess that was technically Klaus's first love, in a sense. Now that I think about it, I guess technically that was his first love, and then, of course we get into all the doppelganger stuff, but I don't know, I guess that's why it mattered so much to him, but I'm still on Elijah's side, to be totally honest. Still a fun fight, regardless. I mean, it was still a fun fight for them to have, but I like that. It was a nice little reveal for the flashback, and it's like, Elijah does the first ever compulsion. He compels Aurora to say like, oh, I don't give a crap about you. And when they did that out of order, and they had the scene where Klaus was like, like, it was like the second time they were talking because she was already like, I'm one of you now. And then I believe he still said no the first time, and then he went back like right after that. It was like, you know what, you should come with us. It seemed like he changed on the fly, to be totally honest. But I guess it was because he knew what happened, and so it was like, you should totally come with us. And then she was like, I don't know, when I saw you, I hate you and this and that. I was like, why is she being such a bitch? And then it was revealed. I was like, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, she's being so mean to him right now. And it seemed like once she, got like super powerful, she didn't want to waste her time with him anymore. So I thought that was I was like, man, she's being so mean. And then it totally made sense after the reveal. But I love that. I was like, this is actually really cool. And of course, these pretty cool reveals, and them every time they do stuff, like, it's super old compulsion, but it was like the first time they ever did it, just like Lucian being the first vampire. I was like, this is actually really, really cool. And I'm kind of interested in seeing what happens when one of them actually makes, I guess the third generation or second generation of regular vampires. I want to see what that's like. Like, I want to see what happens when they figure that out. Like, oh, we can all make, our own line and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I'm just curious about a lot of the first. It's stuff we've seen a million times, counting this series as well as the initial Vampire Diaries. And it's like, I just still want to see when it happened the very first time. Like, the reactions of the originals and these three vampires, three regular vampires that they've, created in the past. I'd love to see those reactions. And I'm sure we will. We might not exactly see what happens, like, when Lucian turns his first person, or Aurora or Tristan do the same, but we might, like, I don't really know. Like, I don't know how old Aya really is. Like, she mentioned she's, like, super old compared to Marcel, but that doesn't necessarily mean she's, like, the first person that, Tristan ever turned. But, we'll see how it all plays out. But that was really good. Lucian pulled an interesting move on Cammy at the end, and it totally put me back on, is he the villain, or is he the one that's actually killing these people? Because it was like, okay, he's being set up by by the Sticks, or the Strix, whatever their name is. I think it's Strix. So it was like, alright, there was another murder that happened, simple enough, and then maybe it was just random, a coincidence, and it's just like, okay, he knew that he was being followed by Cammy and Vincent, vanishes, boom, kidnaps, he kidnaps Cammy, And then he's threatening, yada yada yada. You'll see what I'm made of, or you're about to find out, or whatever he said at the end. He takes off, and then poof, there's another body. So it certainly, the way they did it definitely made it seem like he was the one that killed those people. And maybe what it was is when he was like, you're gonna find out. What he did was kill this last person, and that way he could get rid of Cammy, who admittedly isn't really a threat. So I don't know why he would, aside from just being mad at her, I guess. So at this point, she's arrested, which kind of blew my mind. I was like, I would never have thought that they end this with like, here's a little twist. You're the one who's under arrest. You're the only person whose fingerprints are on this dead body. The cop found like her secret stash of all the magical stuff in her apartment, so that wasn't the best moment. And he's just like, oh, check out all this amazing stuff. And it's just her and Vincent. It's like, oh, crap. So now she's arrested. Don't know how that's going to play out, but I'm actually looking forward to seeing what goes on there. I don't think simple, compulsion is going to solve that issue, because there are a lot of different layers to it now that she's officially been arrested. So we'll see how that stuff plays out. And then we had the stuff with Davina in this episode. Definitely pretty fun. She officially wipes away the curse. So Haley and her entire clan, they're all going to be fine. Well, the ones that are left. And they haven't really touched on that yet either. They haven't really touched on what the other wolves are doing, because everyone was turned back human. It wasn't like it was just Haley and her husband. It was like everyone was turned back. And I thought they were certainly going to have a focus, because they had the one girl that Elijah ran across. And it was like, oh, it's Haley, but it's not actually Haley. I thought for sure she was going to end up being important, but they haven't shown anybody else. And I thought she was going to be like the new, like, tertiary wolf member or whatever. It was going to be like, okay, it's Haley, her husband, who I swear I can't ever remember his freaking name. And then it was going to be this random girl that we saw. And they haven't talked about that at all. Like, they're still living in their house. It's still just the two of them. They mentioned when they first moved in there, like, oh, it'll be like a whole clan of people watching after Hope and everything. It's still just the two of them. And the wolves have been turned human. Like, it's been for everyone. Unless I was wrong. I'm pretty sure, though, that when Davina did that spell, it was for every single person who was affected by the spell. So seems like no one's really showing up. I don't know what the deal is with that, but they're all completely human 100% of the time now. Davina is getting a little bit closer to being busted. Like, the guy wasn't trying to kill her, he just wanted her to reveal her darkest secrets. So I don't know. Like, I thought Davina for sure. I honestly, when she figured out what the little doll was, I thought she was gonna flat out say, like, I did have your mother killed. I thought she was gonna admit it, just flat out, but she didn't. She kind of was just like, I'm sorry for what happened, and then that was kind of it, which is smart, because it wouldn't have worked out great for her, but definitely cool. It was cool to see that she did that. She's like, I'd rather, have you as a friend than an enemy. So that was pretty sweet. Like, so now they're on much better terms compared to you do as I say, or I'm gonna blow this freaking candle out and you guys are screwed. So I actually like the way that ended. I'm, of course, still very curious to see where they take that and what happens with Davina dealing with this guy, and what's going to happen just with the whole coven. Because if they figure out she did that, she will get destroyed. Like, it won't be, she'll be killed and then she might be erased after that, but she will suffer if the whole coven figures that stuff out. So it's still a very valid threat, and it's still true. Like, it's exactly, what they think happened is what happened. So not really sure how it's going to play out, but I'm looking forward to that. We got our first, pretty big battle. It seemed like things were pretty nice at first. It was like, they had the little, in the last episode, it was like they had the nice little ending. Everything kind of worked out. Marcel survived and joined the Strix. The whole family was kind of bonded a little bit. Freya had the little note and all this stuff. It was just silly, and like, everything's nice now. And then this episode comes along. Here comes, Aurora, chaos. So I'm looking forward to things, but they've definitely started the true divide. And the fact that they talked about Rebekah, now that Aurora's back, I'm hoping we get her in the present timeline. And she'll probably be I would assume, in the witch form. Still hoping that it's the same actress from the last season, because we still have not seen her whatsoever. And that kind of worries me, like they couldn't even get the same actress from the last season to come back. So I really hope they do, or they just get the original actress, because she was able to switch bodies like back and forth, so she has that option now. And we'll just see how all that stuff plays out. There's still that whole sort of Cole thing where she's like, I'm gonna bring Cole back, but for now they have a war to deal with, so he can wait until next season. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. If we get like like I said, a third actress or something. I really hope we don't, but like I'm just so worried because we haven't seen her whatsoever. It's either that's how they wrote it initially, or it was sort of actress availability based, and that's why we haven't seen her. And maybe once we do, it'll still be either I can't think of her actual name, but like our original Rebekah actress who's in the flashback, so she could totally be in the present. They could have done that already. Or it's going to be the actress from the last season, and maybe she's just not available just yet. But they could still do it with the original actress. I don't know. However they do it, I'm looking forward to it, because I want to see Rebekah in the current timeline. Original, body or witch body, doesn't matter. But I like this episode. Very curious about what's going to happen with Cammy after Lucian kind of setting her up that way. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to Aurora kind of encountering Lucian and Tristan. That's what I'm looking forward to at this point, because it was really all about Klaus in this episode, but she was with Lucian. They mentioned that in like the premiere, so they ended up together after she was with Klaus. So I don't know. We'll see exactly what happens. We'll see where it goes, but I'm looking forward to things. This was a good episode. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I want to know what you guys think is going to happen with Cammy. Because, honestly, I can't really think of where they could take that outside of compulsion, which I think would be way too simple of a solution. It has to be sort of the normal side of the storyline, where it's like Vincent has to help her out. Maybe he'll do some magic, or to try to figure out exactly who it is, because he doesn't want to deal with the vampires at this point. But I feel like it's going to be more human-based, or at least witch-based, compared to like, bring in the originals and compel all of these different people. I think he's going to kind of take the reins a little bit on this case and figure out who the actual murderer is. And then who knows what chaos that'll bring. Because if it's the Strix, then it's going to be someone in there. It will most likely be Aya, I would assume. If it's not them, it's not Lucian. We know that because he was already arrested when that happened before, and I'm assuming he just killed that body just to get rid of Cammy. Or that was still a coincidence, because I was still trying to figure it out. Like, either he meant he was going to do something in the future, or that's exactly what he meant, and he, set her up in that body. I'm still not 100% sure, but I'll just go with he set her up. And if it's not the Strix or Lucian, we know it's not Aurora, because she was locked up. And so that would bring back a fourth party, which I've mentioned before. Like, if there was possibly a fourth person that we haven't seen yet that's somehow involved in this war, it could be that person, and just some random person we still haven't met yet. So I feel like that keeps happening, where it's like some random little thing will make me feel like it can't be this person, or this person. So it has to be someone brand new. So at this point, it's still kind of going towards the Strix, and it's like it's either Ava or Tristan, or just some random person in the group that we aren't going to care about. But I'm still looking forward to it. I think Vincent is going to have a pretty big role because of Cammy getting arrested. Also very excited for that, because he's kind of stopped all of his witch stuff. And I like Vincent. I want to see him get back into his magic. And, he offered to help Davina when she kind of turned things down. She was like the only person that he was going to even do magic for. So he doesn't even do it for himself. But he might kind of get back into it to try to help Cammy and figure out, what the heck is going on. But like I said, I want to know your speculations, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.